Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to TMC Pulse on Study Emerging TMS Topics webinar series. Today's webinar topic is using messaging to locate and verify incident outside of traffic management system coverage areas. My name is Anaf Moshed, and I'll help facilitate today's webinar. As a quick reminder, at National Operations Center of Excellence, we offer a variety of resources to support the transportation systems management and operations community. You can go to NOCO's website to browse through links for TISMO resources and news. Previous webinar recordings and case studies can be accessed from here. Now I'll cover a few logistics for today's webinar. We're recording this webinar and the recording will be available on NOCO's website. All the attendees are encouraged to stay engaged by using the Q&A feature for questions and chat feature for comments. These are both on the bottom of your screen. We have a question and answer session at the end of the presentations. So if you have any questions, we encourage you to enter them in the Q&A pod as they come to your mind at any time. Also, please feel free to enter your name and agency in the chat to say hello to your peers. At this point, we have some opening poll questions and I'll launch them and you can see them on they will pop up on your screen. So please go ahead and answer the question. What organization are you affiliated with? I'll give you a minute or so to answer the questions. This is the results we have. So we have around 46% of public agency state, around 25% academic, 13% private agency, 2% federal government, and 8% others. You can see that 20% is traffic control and management, 13% traffic incident management, 34% researcher, 16% performance monitoring and evaluation, 8% service providers, and 8% travelers information. Great. So, next question. What start time would you prefer for future TMS-focused webinars? We can see that majority wants 1 p.m. Eastern time, and equally noon to 1 p.m. It's great. All right. So, this webinar is co-sponsored by National Operations Center of Excellence and Federal Highway Administration, and this is the first of the 8 webinars in this series. As you can see, the learning objectives of today's webinars are learn about TMC Pulse Fund Study and the work it is doing to identify and address the key issues and challenges faced by the TMCs, identify potential opportunities to use text messaging solutions for locating and verifying traffic incidents outside of TMS coverage or service areas. Hear about lessons learned from agencies who are using text messaging solutions to locate, verify, and share information with emergency responders and service providers who may respond to these traffic incidents. We shared the webinar agenda for today. So the webinar agenda consists of 4 individual presentations from our esteemed panelists. I'm going to introduce Ali shortly. He's going to talk about the overview. And then we have the challenges with TMSs using different methods to verify incidents and potential text messaging solutions. And then followed by agency practices and lessons learned. And then agency practices and lessons learned from New Jersey's point of view as well. And finally, as I have mentioned before, we'll have Q&A and how to stay connected and stuff like that. At this point, right. So I'm going to introduce Ali now. He's a senior project manager at Virginia DOT and will be reviewing today's agenda and providing an overview of the TMC-PFS, who is co-sponsoring today's webinar. So Ali, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anaf. Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Next, please, Anaf. Next slide. The disclaimer: the U.S. government does not endorse any product or manufacturer mentioned in this webinar. This webinar is for information purpose only, and it's not reflecting any preference, approval, or endorsement of any product or entity. Next, please. The TMC Pool Fund Study Group is the group of the public agencies and organization who voluntarily every year, annually, they meet to discuss issues as well as challenges, the successes and opportunities that every state they may have. The goal is to improve performance, capabilities, and safety, and how to manage efficiently the TMSs. The group also in this annual meeting, they discuss every state's their new implementation of any type of devices, projects, or completed procurements. They share this information with each other, as well as they select the topics of the technical projects. The projects that is funded through TMC Pool Fund Study Group. Next, please. The value proposition for this group is that the TMC managers, they share their challenges, as well as the projects that's been completed. They're great resources for everyone to access when they run into any kind of issues or the problems. If one state wants to implement new technologies, all they have to do is send an email to the TMC group, and by the end of the day, they get an answer on lessons learned, what worked, and what did not work. It's a great value to get quick answers when some of us have questions about, well, is this technology going to work or not? So if you're interested in joining the TMC Pool Fund group, John Obenberger with FHWA, he's the liaison. Please contact him and he'll be happy to sign you up. Next, please. The TMC Pool Fund projects, currently we have 7 projects that is underway. As you can see, as new technology is emerging, a lot of these topics are to deal with the new technologies coming up. So the issues that many of us encounter. And it's extremely helpful once these projects have been completed, that is a great resource for us to refer to. And we have also a couple of upcoming projects that is listed here. Next, please. TMC Pool Fund also supports NCHRP projects, that they're operational related projects, and the 3 are listed here. Next, please. The TMC Pool Fund, FHWA, and NOCO, they have collaboratively developed a portal. There's a one-stop shop that all the projects that's been completed, they are stored here that it can be accessed. Also, you can share any kind of data or any kind of needs that you may have that you can share in this portal. And it's listed below. Next, please. We have several emerging webinars that's coming up through the year of 2025. Our next webinar is going to be in April of this year, the use of geofencing to actively monitor and collect share information. As you can see, all these webinars are developed by the TMC Pool Fund group. Next, please. Now I want to introduce Les Jacobson. He's well known to many of us with LNJ Transportation Consulting Groups. Les will share information on how important this emerging topic is. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Les.
Thanks, Ali. Just a little bit of background on this. We are supporting several of these emerging topics for the Pool Fund study. And we start out with finding out what it is that the members of the Pool Fund study are interested in, and what sorts of information they have on a given topic. So they provide us some information to get started with. We do some research into that, develop a white paper for the pool fund study, and then after that we develop a fact sheet and this presentation. So the fact sheet and the presentation will be available online through FHWA or the pool fund study, and so as we go through each of these, there'll be a body of information about these different topics. Next slide, please. So this first topic deals with the challenges that DOTs and operating agencies have when they look at how are they going to find out about incidents that are outside of their coverage areas for their TMSs or their TMCs. And so there's things that occur. Some of the challenges include that whether it's a public safety access point or TMC operators themselves, they can't really quickly and accurately locate incidents or any stranded motorists that are outside of their coverage area. Monitoring capabilities simply are not available. There's no cameras, there are no detectors, and generally outside of the existing coverage areas, to add any devices is pretty costly, a lot because of communication, but also the devices themselves, and then also the ongoing O&M that would be included in having those devices outside of that coverage area. And so it's really difficult to get any accurate information on the incidents, both the locations and any sort of details to know how to respond. And so this is a problem across many agencies around the country. Also, even if it's called in by the motorist, they may not know their location. I used to work in a TMC, and we did have some callers call us directly, but even when they didn't, even when they called into the 911 centers, it was very difficult for those dispatchers to really know where those callers were coming from. And so it takes a while to be able to get a reasonable response together. There's a lot of uncertainty. It adds time. And then also, especially if you're outside of some of the more built up urban areas, cell coverage might be real spotty. And there may also be drop calls in that, even if somebody is able to get through, getting disconnected is not uncommon. Next slide, please. So existing methods include things like field reports that might be received through a 911 center, and that's probably the most common one. And even though these calls occur pretty quickly, it's not always an immediate notification from the 911 center to the TMC to get some of the response that DOTs need to lead going. And also there's the problem with the people who call in not really knowing where they are. There are some mobile applications like Waze that people can report that there's something going on where they are. There's also social media platforms, but again, it may take a while to get that information and especially know what's really going on in those areas, even through Waze and other kinds of citizen reporting or social media platforms. There are some ways that can help to get better location, and certainly the reference mile markers are better. That helps people, if they can see it, get an idea of where they might be. But many times there may not be any mile markers, especially not the more accurate ones that go down to 1/10 of a mile or 2/10 of a mile. But also they might just not be able to see it. Even at 1/10 of a mile, it might be difficult to see where those are located. And then a lot of times, especially if the motorist is the one who's involved and it's a more remote area, there may not be a lot of people who pass by, and so those people who are involved might be a little bit excited and may not be able to really think very well as they call in and answer questions. There's been some unmanned aircraft systems, but there again, that can really help provide information about the incident, but it doesn't help to determine where that crash or that incident has been located. Once up in the air over the site, there's a lot that they can do, though, and there's a lot of information that can be garnered from that. And then finally, there's the automatic crash notification or advanced automatic crash notification that are in vehicles that have those devices, and that can provide an awful lot of information. It can be automatically done through the airbag deployment, but there again, there's only a small percentage of the vehicles that are out on the roadway that may have that. So it's really important to think about how else can we get that kind of information. Next slide, please. So we looked at several different approaches to try and get information or get accurate locations of incidents outside of the TMS coverage area. But the one that really we settled on and we had heard of pretty good success with are direct text messaging with travelers. So what that is it's software. It works concurrently with a TMS or a 911 center, and there's call taking involved. So some of the things about that, at least the back end software has to be purchased so that the systems are in place. I think we'll hear about that later from people who actually use this, and we'll be able to say what their experiences were with the software. And depending on what the vendor is that has the software, there's usually some sort of toolbar, some way to kind of float on top of, if you will, the CAD or the call taking interface, so that call takers can see what that is and be able to take these actions. And the toolbar will be idle until it's clicked. Now, the people who take the calls will take it from an inbound caller from their phone, and they will then ask the caller if it's okay to access their smartphone through a text message. So they'll send them a text message, say, can we get access to your smartphone? That will help us locate where you are and get you help as quickly as possible. Then those callers click on the link that's in that text message to provide that permission to access their smartphone. So there are specific things that they access, the GPS coordinates, speed, sometimes camera images or video. They can request that as well, and that can help, especially to see a little bit better what the first responder may need to be prepared for. And they can also get kind of the closest building address, at least an estimate of that. And the smartphone information can be saved and shared with responders to improve that incident response time. So this can be done with no additional software, no application on the cell phone, and there are some systems that do require at least a small download on that smartphone. Next slide, please. So the benefits, I think some of them are pretty clear. It can really reduce the time to locate incidents. So if there's a caller calling in and you can access that location, that provides a pretty accurate location. And the other thing is that they can, instead of having to talk to the caller all the time, they can text the caller. So this is especially important if the call might drop. So instead of trying to reinitiate a call, the text message will just go through asking for more information, and there can be a dialogue through text instead of just through voice. It also can provide images, video, if there's consent with the motorist. That helps both in location and in specific direction of travel, and so that helps dispatching the required resources to respond to the incident. Excuse me. It doesn't take an awful lot of time to deploy this. There's a little bit of software at the back end that has to be installed, generally about a 2-month installation period. So it's pretty quick to do that. It also leverages the traveler-owned smartphone devices, so that reduces agency need to implement any sort of point-based technologies, detectors, or anything else. It is important to note, though, that if there are images or any information that is collected, how the agency has to think about what's data retention. Do you retain it at all? What would the specific policy be on that, so that you're not caught kind of by surprise if there's any requests for that, or if there's anything else that might come up about that data retention. Next slide, please. So what these systems really try to get at, and the outcomes are, again, probably not very surprising considering the discussion so far, but it's to identify incidents more quickly and more accurately, and then to provide medical treatment more quickly, because there would be more known information about where the incident is, what direction of travel it's involved in, and perhaps a little bit better information at the beginning if medical treatment is needed at all. It also will help to reduce the time to clear, because responders can get there more quickly and take care of the incident more quickly, and then of course clear it more quickly as well. This also helps operators, because more information is coming in. They don't have to continue to have conversations about what's happening. Instead, they're able to get the information more accurately, more quickly, and so they can continue to respond to and manage the response to the incident more effectively, and provides them more time to do some of those other aspects of their job. Also, this is relatively low capital and very low operations and low maintenance costs, because they don't have to have any sort of new field devices. Next slide, please. So there are some key issues to think about. It means that there has to be a caller. There has to be someone who answers the calls. So there has to be an operator that can take the call, and then they also have to get permission from the caller to remotely access their phone. The systems that have done this have found that the users are are pretty happy to allow the system to get that information from their phones because they're calling in anyway, and having that request generated by the user, there's usually not an issue with providing this information at all. But again, it's really important to think about any of the images or video or any of the data that might be saved, and there may be some changes needed to policies. It also requires someone, usually a TMC, to be able to accept calls from the travelers or to be able to have pretty close coordination with a 911 center who thinks that this is a good system to have and it doesn't add too much additional workload on their call takers. But yeah, there can be some delay if there's not some sort of automatic way to get the information to the TMC to make sure that the incidents can be responded to accurately and correctly and in a coordinated manner across all of the agencies that are involved. And it does require some driver action. So it's not ideal for certain situations, like if there's a driver that loses consciousness or are otherwise not able to make the call. If there's anything that would inhibit their ability to make the call, one of the things though is even if they can't speak because of the text aspect of it, they could at least text information, and an awful lot of information can get transferred through the text message aspect. And then if the vehicles are in an area where there's not good enough cell coverage even for text messaging, that can be a problem. But also, if the vehicles can't be seen from the roadway, it could be really difficult, because even if they have a pretty accurate location, as responders come by, if they can't see where the vehicle is, it can slow their response down quite a bit. And with that, are we taking questions now, or should we just pass it on?
Yeah, thank you, Les. We can put the questions in the chat box, and at the end of the webinar, we'll answer all the questions. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is Dolores Uttero. She's with Georgia DOT, and she'll be talking to us about the use of Carbine emergency software tools. Dolores?
Thank you, Ali. Good afternoon. My name is Dolores Uttero. I'm the TMC manager with the Georgia Department of Transportation. And current software that we use is Carbine, as Ali mentioned. And the Carbine software is software that works in parallel with the existing phone software system that we have at the TMC, as well as our district offices for CHAMP dispatch. And the way that the software works is the motorist calls our Georgia 511 phone system for TMC, or our dispatch phone lines for the district offices for CHAMP dispatch. And if they're unaware of their exact location, or we cannot locate them based on their description of their surroundings, or we cannot locate them on camera, we enable the application, and we will the way this works is the dispatchers will first use the caller's number, and the way it works is the motorist will receive a text with a link And if the motorist has agreed to receive the text, then they will and if they have the location services enabled on their phone, they will be able to provide our operators their location service informations, and with that we are able to then deploy our either PD or EMS services, or if they're in need of our SSP services for either Hero or Champ, then we are able to dispatch those services. The way that this program was first brought into the department was we started with a 9-month pilot, 3-month pilot program, and what the department wanted to do was just observe what the results will be of in the benefits for the department. And what was observed was that there was a 20-minute reduction in the average dispatch time in locating motorists out in the roadway. And it was also observed that with that reduction in time of locating motorists out in the in the roadways, we also saw an improvement in our clearance time, as well as improved customer service. And we have then from there, what the department did was we saw the benefit, and then we decided to incorporate this not only at the TMC but as well as in our statewide program with all of our district offices with a Champ dispatch. Next slide. And can you hit it again? Sorry. And this just outlines exactly the way that the software works. The outcome of this tool was, again, as I mentioned before, is as the tool is used by the operators and dispatchers statewide, we see a reduction in the incident timeline. And this just shows a snippet of what our operators are able to see on their desktops or laptops. And, they input the motorist phone number, and they send out the text message. And if the motorist has their location, the location options enabled on their phones, then we're able to locate them. And then you see, here they receive the latitude and longitude, which we then enter into our ATMS, and we're able to create an event and then dispatch any type of services they are able to, we're in need for the specific incident that we have. We have the need for this throughout, statewide. And if I could get the next slide, I can probably explain it better. So as we have implemented this software into our practices and into our SOPs statewide, we develop heat maps every month just to make sure that our operators are implementing and using it constantly for provide all the support that we need for our motorists, not only statewide in rural areas, as I mentioned, in our district offices for Champ dispatch, but we also see, as you can see here in the middle image there, for Atlanta, the metro area, we see a significant use of the software. That could be due to just motorists that are just driving through the state and are not familiar with our roadways and just how our system works. Or even we do see this also with just local residents that they may call us and they tell us exactly, they know where they are, but then sometimes they tell us the wrong directionality. They tell us they're in eastbound, but they're actually westbound. Or for 285, which is, as basically a circle. You know, it really matters exactly where you tell us where, you know, where you're located, because you can tell us you're in 285 northbound, and you know, you can tell us you're in northbound, but it was eastbound, and then you end up in a completely opposite location of where you are. And if we're dispatching Hero to respond in the metro area, that can increase response time significantly, depending on the time of day, or sometimes that doesn't even matter. So as we have, you know, from the moment we implemented the program with Carbine, we have seen, you know, a continuous increase of the usage of the software within our operations, as I said, at the TMC, but also statewide. And we track all of the use on a monthly basis. We also, as part of our operations, we record our calls that come into the TMC. So we do an audit just to make sure if we're having issues with the software, if we're having issues, you know, to identify just kind of what type of problems we run into with the specific, you know, since we're talking about this, with the specific software. And some of the complications we do run into is if a user does not have their location services enabled on their phone. So our operators will walk them through that. Sometimes they just either don't want to, you know, for their own personal reasons, or sometimes they just don't understand what we're trying to tell them. But you know, we've run into some of those, and other times, some of the, you know, we don't have, the reason why we don't have 100% of success uses, you know, if the motorists do not agree to receive the text message from us. And as I mentioned, we just continue to develop this heat maps, and in 2023 we went ahead and deployed licenses statewide. We started as a metro deployment on this, and just some hotspots. But then, you know, back in 2023 we went ahead and deployed licenses in all of our dispatch offices, and throughout Georgia have licenses for all of our operators. And they can use it both when they're in the office as well as when they're working remotely. And like I said, we develop these heat maps every month to make sure that we are both that there are operators are still you know, in the habit of using this software, and that you know, I do have the right coverage, or if I need to increase licenses wherever.
So one question for Dolores that I have is that you mentioned that the calls that come in is recorded. Is there any issues with holding those recorded calls for a certain amount of time, or how do you handle that?
So of course, all of our information is subject to open records request. And the 90 days is just the maximum we're allowed to use record. And after the 90 days, you know, everything gets overwritten by all any other information we're saving. The reason we are saving those is mainly because of the quality control that we do for our program, and just to identify if there are any issues with you know, the training that we are you know, providing our operators, and also as the use of Carbine. You know, it's helped us identify if there's been, you know, coverage issues, or if maybe there are some areas where maybe the software is not working properly, and we're getting maybe the wrong location, even though the the motorist is telling us what they see, but then the software is giving us the wrong location. So then we've been able to do some troubleshooting with the provider on that. But yeah, and of course, if we get a request for the information we provided to anybody that's requesting, whether it be calls or anything else, but that is the only information we keep for that length of time. We don't record video or on our cameras or anything else.
Thank you. What was the cost of the software?
The cost of the software is I will have to look into the deployment cost, but I have an annual maintenance cost of $500,000 for about 100 licenses.
Thank you. Got a question in the chat box. How do motorists contact to TMCs to report incidents by calling 911 or TMC phone numbers?
For Georgia, it varies. So we have of course, our 511 phone number, and so we have a lot of calls coming through our 511, and we also get a lot of calls depending on the severity and what is needed. Some 911 centers will transfer the call to us if they need Hero or Champ to respond to those incidents, and those calls will get, or if a trip needs to be activated, those calls will be transferred to us. And for our district areas, for that dispatch, specifically Champ or maintenance, our maintenance foremen, they have specific numbers that we advertise for those offices. We're in the process of redeveloping our phone system so that we can have a statewide phone system, and maybe so that we can have just our 511 phone number work for all of our districts.
Thank you. Question for Jose. How many travelers use your solution to receive messages, total number of users?
So for the text messaging, we're averaging about 7,500 a year. So that's roughly about 500 a month. Our standard operating procedure is when a motorist does call in, and they could call in through various ways. We do have pound GSP and pound 95 that anyone could use on their cell phone. They could also call 911 and the calls get transferred to us. So our normal operating procedure is once we receive the call, if they could identify where they're located, that is the fastest and most efficient way to try to locate a patron on our system. If they do not know where they are, then we proceed to try to walk them through, or sending them text message if they are open to that solution. So as of right now, we're averaging, as was on the last slide, about 18 text messages out to patrons a day.
Has there been any issues with texting and driving? I know we put on our CMSs that do not text and drive. Has there been any issues with that, with the use of Dolores with your software, or Jose with y'all? Has that been any issue or not?
Sure. So I'll go first, Dolores, if you don't mind. So from our side, the calls that we do receive where we would be using our services that we offer would always be with motorists on the side of the road. So there wouldn't be, there's not a concern there. Nonetheless, as you rightfully stated, Ali, we do post that everywhere on our VMSs, safety first, no texting, driving, but motorist behavior cannot be controlled, as we all know.
Yeah, I agree. So for most of our instances, our motorists are most of the time on the side of the road, or they have pulled to a safe location. And we usually ask them to be, our operators usually are asking them where, if they are in a location where they can discuss what their needs are. And we mostly rely on the link and the location services rather than the text messaging, and then to minimize the risk of the texting and driving. But as Jose said, you can't control what motorists are doing. But yeah, we try to just make sure that the motorists have either pulled over on to a safe location, or maybe on the ramp, or something like that, in a safe location where we can just be able to discuss with them exactly what we need to dispatch.
Thank you, Dolores. I have one more question myself from you, is that, we keep adding to what TMCs do, continuously adding. How did your operators and supervisors and dispatchers receive the new software that they have to use to interact with public?
Our operators really like this software because they're able to locate them faster. And for example, if somebody calls and they're just not familiar where the locations, or if they're in a remote location and we don't have cameras available, and usually a motorist that is having an issue, they're not necessarily calm. They're usually freaking out, as we listen to some of the recordings we have, our operators are trying to just calm them and to be able to provide that the assistance that they need. And by being able to just quickly locate them and tell them that they're able to send out this help, not only they're able to quickly clear these incidents, but they're also able to provide that customer service and that assurances to these motorists that there's someone on the way and it's not going to take hours or an extended period of time. So that's helped our operators, and they really welcome this solution at our TMC.
Right, thank you.
Hi, Ali. Yeah, we have a lot of questions on the Q&A pod. Do you want to go through them as well?
And is there some of them that I'm missing?
Yeah, it's in the Q&A pod, which is beside the chat button.
There we go. It says, if you don't mind posting as a comment on the link for the portal that has been completed projects in TMC website, the TMC, the website, this webinar will be on the website, so you can access the links, and it will be available. Where do your companies like Enrix and Recor fits in with the detecting the incidents? How are the times using solutions like that? So Dolores?
Can you repeat the question, sir?
Basically, I had the use of Enrix data and Recor. How does it fit with detecting incidents? Do you use that, or how does it interact with TMC solutions?
We ingest Enrix data into our ATMS, but unfortunately, our carbine solution is not integrated into our ATMS, so it's a standalone application. We are in the process of procuring a new ATMS, so once that our new TMS is in place, all of this will be integrated, and I think then we will be able to see, how all of this ties in and what the impacts will be there. But right now we use Carbine as a standalone application.
Okay.
Mhm.
Has this been deployed in a TMC? Are those TMC's personnel trained in handling emergency calls from traveler? Or is there a transfer policy or agreement in place?
So I'll take a crack at that. So yes, we have been live now for 2 years. Our traffic management center in New Jersey is a shared space. So if it's a medical emergency, state police gets engaged immediately. Or if it's criminal activity, state police is engaged immediately. And if it's any other type of aid, such as flat tire, I ran out of gas, that's where we dispatch one of our towing companies that we partner with. So I do hope that answers that question. So there's really not a transfer of calls on the floor, but it's more of a collaboration between the 3 agencies on the floor based on the incident that's being addressed.
Thank you. How do we account for drivers who are not savvy with texting?
The old-fashioned way.
Understood. All right, TMC haven't typically used commercial dispatch software. Carbine was mentioned, but Rapid SOS, Rapid Deploy are also some good ones. Esri also has a solution. The research should ask who is using these tools, and if so, which one though? Thoughts? Your thoughts?
Carbine was the software we tested, and we've been successful with it.
I can answer that, and I'd be interested to know from John. I was not aware that they did the same sort of things where they interacted directly with a motorist or a caller to be able to pinpoint their location. When we did this research, we looked all over to find other companies other than Carbine and Safe Trip, and those were the only ones that we found that at least that an agency was using. And one of the things that we wanted to do was make sure that it was a system that an agency had used, so that we could get their perspectives and their experience.
Thank you, Les. How secure is it? How do you secure the privacy and protect the data that is coming in?
Sure. So that's a really good question. So what we do is we follow all of our standards of our IT contracts, right? So whether we're dealing with PII information from tolling customers, or we're dealing with PHI information, or we're dealing with PII information from employees, we have some standard legal language that all of our partners must subscribe to. And I encourage everyone to do their due diligence when you're doing software as a service, asking the right questions of where is the software hosted? Is it FedRAMP ready? Do you need it to be FedRAMP ready? Are you looking for an on-prem? What does your retention policy, whether it's a state, city, or local county that you need to follow, what does that state, and make sure you follow those types of guidelines. So from our experience, yes, it is secure. Nonetheless, due diligence is required to ensure that whether it's this vendor or any other vendor that you do business with, continues to follow best cybersecurity practice to safeguard your data.
Dolores?
Yeah, and basically the same. We meet and we follow all our requirements from our GDIT department, and for all deployments of technology, our GDIT security, networking, and all aspects of our IT department are involved, and they have very strict rules on when anything that has to do with technology deployments, especially that are cloud-based, and when we're exchanging information with motorists and this type of technologies. So we meet all of their requirements, and specifically for Carbine, where there is information exchange with the motorist, and we are basically accessing their phones. Our legal department was heavily involved in this as well.
Did you all have to add any staffing with this new software to handle that, or you used your existing staff?
No, we use our existing staff.
Okay, for Dolores, has anyone on a bicycle used the text messaging to request help in a crash area?
That's a good question. I'm not sure, but I will take a look at that.
Mm-hmm. Is the software integrated into the TMS or not?
That's on the roadmap for us.
Not in Georgia, and it's on our roadmap as well, with our procurement for our new ATMS.
For Jose, do you assure your patrons that you only use their location data once?
Of course. Yes.
After they agree.
Yeah.
All right. What if I'm reporting an incident that's already happened? The location of interest of incidents is fixed, but myself is moving. Thank you.
So I could talk a little bit to that in terms of the Safe Trip app itself. So because we want to promote safety first, and we don't want anyone to be using their mobile phone while they're driving, patrons / motorists have the ability to go into the map and pinpoint either on Google Maps if there's an incident, whether the incident is a damaged guide rail or an accident, and then that information is sent over to us for appropriate action. So, the text messaging features that I spoke about are specific for an incident on the side of the road that needs immediate attention, whereas there's other features inside the Safe Trip app itself that allows someone to report an incident, whether you're a passenger in the vehicle or whether you've already reached your destination. The other thing that we did with Safe Trip when we first deployed is that we do have several pop-ups throughout the application as you navigate through it that says, you should not be using this if you are driving. So those types of reinforcement messages to our motorists have proven to be helpful.
All right, thank you. What is the minimum and maximum data need kilobytes across the various ways to enable location? Jose?
It's minimal. I mean, a regular text message is probably 1 KB. So you're talking about minimum space.
How does the software reduce secondary crashes?
So we're still gathering data to see that, but what we know from from all our data sets, and certainly what I was taught from my peers in our operation groups is that secondary crashes are the most problematic. So the goal of the software is for the software to be used to clear the incident as quickly as possible. So therefore, you don't have the opportunity for a secondary accident. So as we start compiling that data, we're going to start analyzing it as well.
It would seem that if we detect the incidents outside coverage area and we clear it quicker in turn, we are reducing the secondary crashes. So
right, your window is shrinking.
Yeah. All right. Looks like we don't have any more open questions. So earlier we covered the projects that are underway as well as upcoming projects. These 6 projects, they have been completed and they will be available soon for publications, and it would be on the website that everyone can access. Next, please. The upcoming webinars, we have several coming up, as mentioned earlier, through the year of 2025. Our next webinar is in April. So if there are any interest to be part of this as far as a speaker, feel free to contact John Oppenberger with FHWA. Next, please. Also, this shows how you can access and the use of the portal, NOCO portal that has been established for one-stop shop. So feel free to use that, and that would be available once we put this presentation on the website as well. So you can access any of the links through the NOCO portal. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Anal for closing statements.
Thank you, Ali. So we have a couple of closing poll questions. Please participate in them as well. So are there any types of resources you would like to see that are not currently in the TMS portal? If yes, please specify. We would request you to just type in the answers if you have some resources. I'll give you a couple of seconds for that. All right, so let's move on to the next question. Do you have additional TMS emerging topics you would like to see covered in an upcoming webinar? If yes, please specify. All right, so we have a couple of responses. With that, I think we are at the end of this webinar. Thank you for participating in today's webinar, and we look forward to your participation in the upcoming webinars for this series. And thank you for being patient and supporting us all throughout. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.